Okay, we're going to do patterns with fractions. In this lesson, we get to add, we get to subtract, we get to change a mixed number into an improper fraction, an improper fraction into a mixed number. We're really going to use everything we know. But the first thing we have to do is find the pattern. So, Mr. Patrick wants to develop a new chili recipe for his restaurant. Each batch he makes uses different amounts of chili powder. The first batch uses 3.5 ounces. The second batch uses 4 5/6 ounces. The third batch uses 6 1/6 ounces, and the fourth batch uses 7.5. If this pattern continues, how much chili powder will he use in the sixth batch? All right, so we are going back to the fourth batch. So that just tells me that I need 2 more batches to figure out or follow the pattern 2 more times. So how am I going to figure out what the pattern is or what the rule is? Well, I'm going to look at, I went from 3.5 to 4 and 5/6. So I know that my rule is adding. I'm increasing. So now how do I want to figure out how much I'm increasing? Well, I'm just going to subtract 6 and 1/6 from, or 7 and 1/2 from 6 and 1/6. So remember, I have to find a common denominator first because I'm subtracting, and I know my common denominator is 6 because I know my facts, and I know 2 can go into 6 and 6 can go into 6. So this one will stay the same. So this is 6 and 1/6. What did I do to get to 6? 2 times 3. So that means I got to take my numerator times 3, and I get 3/6. And I put my 7 here. Now if I subtract that, I get 2/6. And if I subtract this, I get 1. Well, I'm going to simplify this to be, because I can know that it's best to work under simplification to simplify everything. And I know I can divide both of these by 2. So if I divide them both by 2, I get 1/3. So it's 1 and 1/3. So I know my rule is 1 and 1/3. Here they kept it as a 6, but it doesn't matter if it's an equivalent. It doesn't. So my next batch is 7.5 plus 1 and 1/3. So first I have to find a common denominator, which I know is 6, because 2 times, okay, I take this times 3. This is going to be 3. I take this times 2, and I get 5/6. I got to add my whole numbers, and I get 8. So my next one is 8 and 5/6. Okay, so now I have 8 and 5/6. Plus 1 and 1/3, because that's my rule. I should have put that here, plus 1 and 1/3 each time. So my common denominator here, if I look at it, I know right away it's 6. So this is going to stay the same. And this is going to times 2 to get 6. So I get 7/6. I know that's a improper fraction. I know 6 can go into 7 one time, and that's 6/6. So I'm going to subtract that off. That's how I got my 1. So I'll just carry my 1 up here. And I get 1/6 left over. So I got 8, 9, 10, 10, and 1/6. And I can check because this was 4th, 5th, 6th batch. I also notice a pattern here, which is probably helpful. A 2 for a denominator, 6 for a denominator, 6 for a denominator. Now we're back to a 2, then 6 and 6. So that probably tells me I have the answer correct. So my sequence order is 8 and 5/6, 10 and 1/6, and it's 10 and 1/6. Okay, so a lot of work. Takes some persistence, but can you rock this? Yes, you can. All right, let's look at the next one. All right, find the unknown terms in the sequence. So now we're finding them in the middle of the sequence. So we got to find these terms. So write the terms in the sequence as equivalent fractions with common denominators. So if you notice, we have 4, 16, 8, 16. I wonder if that's going to matter. Well, let's figure out if we're going to increase or decrease. Well, when I look here, I'm going from 1 3/4 to 1 9/16 to 1 3/8 to 1 3/16. So I know I am decreasing, especially when I looked over here and I've lost my whole. So I know I'm going to minus. So how am I going to figure out what is the pattern that they're doing? So I'm going to do 1 3/4 subtracted by 1 9/16. Common denominator is 16 because this can go into 16. So let's look at this. If I do that, I'm subtracting, this is 9. 4 times 4, so this is 12. So 1 take away 1 is 0. 12 16ths subtracted by 9 16ths is 3 16ths. So my rule is I am subtracting by 3 16ths. So now I know what my rule is. So now I just got to go to this term of 1 3/16. And I'm going to subtract away 3 16ths. And that's not too tough. 3 16ths take away 3 16ths is 1 whole. That's all I have left. So that one was easy. But now I have 1 whole. I have 1 whole subtracted by 3 16ths. So what am I going to change this to so I have a fraction? Well, what's the equivalent of this whole if I have a 16th? Well, the equivalent is 16 16ths because that's what we want to still keep that same common denominator. So that takes away my whole, but 16 16th. So now, can I take away 3 16ths from 16 16ths? I certainly can, and I get 13 16ths. So my next one will be 13 16ths. So now I have 13 16ths subtracted by 3 16ths, and well, that makes it fairly easy because a 16th, can I just subtract that? You betcha I can. 13 16ths subtracted by 3 16ths, and I get 10 16ths. But can I simplify that at all? I think I can, so let's see. I can divide them both by 2 and I get 5/8. And I think my next one's 5/8. Now if I look at my pattern here, I had a 4, I had a 16, an 8, a 16. Here I have a whole, a 16, an 8, a 16, and the 4. Well, what do you think? Do you think we got it correct? Well, there's one way to check it, and that would be to do 5 16ths subtracted by 3 16ths. And if we subtract that, we get 2 16ths. And if we divide both of those by 2, I get 1/8. And did that give me what I needed? Oh, I'm sorry. Mistake. 5/8 subtracted by 3 16ths. There. Okay, so this stays the same. This I got to take times 2 to get a 16th, so it's 10 16ths. That would be 10 take away 3 equals 7, so 7 16ths. So we have it correct. So was there a little bit of work there? Yes. Did we handle it? Yes. And we're moving on. Go to the next video, please.